All right, and good evening here, and welcome back to the Big Man's Report live podcast show. Man, it feels good to be back. I feel like it's been so long since I've been on the platform here speaking to all of you, my audience and my followers, and being able to give you guys great content on my channel. But, like I said, I took a hiatus for a while with, life getting in the way, work, family, all that good stuff. But I am happy to be here and be back on the show. Like I said, I haven't seen you guys for a couple months, but I am back here, and I'm starting my shows back up again, just in time for the holiday season. So it's what other better time than that is to bring the joy in, bring it all in the holidays with the Big Man's Report Live. So, I'm happy to be back, and I'm excited to give you guys some more great content. I hope all of you guys been well. Everything in your daily lives. I know things get, like I said, things get pretty hectic, but I always thank you guys for the constant support, generosity throughout my channel with my followers and all my content. So want to thank you guys and all my sponsors as well for making my show possible and, putting me in this position to give you guys some great shows. So we'll get started tonight. And again, it's great to be back. And I wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, even though we're a couple days away. And we got the holiday season, like I said, right around the corner. Christmas, New Year's, it flies every year. So when these times come around, we enjoy it with our families, and we make the most of it. But tonight, I wanted to introduce a very special guest, someone who I've gotten to know over the recent months in the summertime, and things have been crazy, and been trying to get her on here, in the past, but with scheduling and, like I said, everything that's been hectic. So I'm happy to finally have her on my program now. You may have seen her in many horror films. She's been working on a lot of projects, and be getting to know her. She's a pretty great person, and I'm happy to announce and bring her onto my show. So without further ado, and we'll talk a little bit more about her career in just a quick minute, I'd like to introduce Miss Genoveva Rossi. Hello, Genoveva. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm glad we finally got this done. As I was telling you, summers are usually pretty hectic with me because that's our busy season usually as actors and also for modeling. And then also, when I have my downtime, I like to go to the beach or the lake or whatever. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I know, and the that downtime is most important because, hey, listen, these days can get stressful, and we need it just to relax our bodies and minds at times, right?
Exactly. But the holidays are a nice little lull for most people, I think, in their work, especially in show business. Thanksgiving to Christmas is usually pretty mellow,
Yeah, it's nice to have the family time, the downtime where you can catch on to some stuff and, what are you doing, shopping or stuff you need to get done. It's always good to have that extra downtime. It settles down a little bit around the holidays. So I agree with you on that.
Yep.
So again, thank you for coming on my program. And finally, we were able to finally get this going and get you on here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk to you about how you got into your acting career, some films that you've been featured in, that you starred in, that some great people you worked with. But what I like to do, Genoveva, with all my guests, before we get into all that stuff, I like to know a little bit more about the guests in particular, and their family life, where they grew up, and how they got into where they're at today. So I want to just back up for a second. I'd like to know, so what was your family life like, your childhood like growing up, and where did you grow up as a young girl?
I usually don't go into like real specifics on that because I don't want to encourage stalking.
Of course, area.
but we'll just be a little vague. So I grew up in New Jersey. So I'm a Jersey girl.
Jersey girl at heart.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have too much of a Jersey accent or not. I try not to have too much of one because you don't always want to have an accent as an actor that would limit you too much. Right. I try to keep my voice as ambiguous as to where I would be from as possible.
Yeah.
So as not to limit myself too much, although that sometimes becomes a good typecast for some people, though. I guess it depends on whether or not you can have it work for you. But yeah, Northern New Jersey, Italian-American upbringing. I grew up in a very heavily Italian and Italian-American area. So very much, all my friends, everywhere I hung out with, everybody I knew for the most part was Italian-American in my childhood.
So you grew up, and obviously the last name carries it all, right? So you grew
Mhm.
up in a very close-knit Italian family, I'm guessing. So holidays and lots of food, right?
Yeah, well, Italian culture, I guess, is about the food and,
Yeah,
and the music. I always love
absolutely.
Italian music, and I love visiting Italy. I've been to Rome and I've been to Sicily and Naples and everything like that. I really like visiting Italy, and I need to find some time to do that again for sure. Yeah, very warm people, very loud people, very fun people. And I try to do as many Italian cultural stuff in my life now as I can find time for as well, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I mean, I tell my guests too, if we brought up about the Italian culture. So my father's family is Italian.
Mhm.
So I kind of grew up a little bit on that side where, like the very loud, the hands, the food, and all the holidays and all that kind of stuff are always really special. But yeah, so I definitely I see what you're saying with that. But do you think at a young age, so you grew up in the close-knit family in northern New Jersey, um, what got you into want to be in acting or theater? I mean, what drove that motivation in you to get started in that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I guess it was always something that I was interested in. It's also something I kind of fell into a bit. Where I had offers to be in various films over the years. I took those offers. I did those things. A lot of times, things in life that you end up doing have to do with your friends and the people you're in close proximity to. So I've always been a creative person, and most of my friends tend to be creative-minded, people.
Right.
And film, making movies or TV shows is a great way to create art, and then a great way to show that art to a great mass of people, more than you would probably be able to do like writing short stories or poetry, or really any other medium. Film really moves people, and it's just so accessible really to the whole world. Like, I always find it really amazing when I go to a convention, whether it be up north in America, down south, or I even went in 2017 to Birmingham, United Kingdom,
Wow.
to sign autographs at Birmingham HorrorCon. Like, how you meet people even in Europe, and they're familiar with your work, because that's the power of film and television, is that it crosses oceans, it crosses cultures.
Mhm.
Everybody, you can create something, and even doesn't even have to be like the most mainstream thing in the whole entire world, even. But it's going to be accessible to so many people, especially now with all the platforms that we have, like Tubi,
Yeah.
Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Redbox, all these other platforms that people are using now. You can create something, whether it's a mainstream project or a more independent project, and it's going to be out there for really the whole world to see.
Yeah, and that's a great point you touched on. I think, and I would agree that films do reach
Mhm.
large audiences all over the world. And you could try to say the same thing about music and a lot of other arts, which could be true as well. But something about films, and like your example, you went into the signing over in
Mhm.
Europe. I mean, hey, I see this actor, this actress on the big screen. Like they in some way, they really either influenced me or I really enjoyed the movie that they were in. And this is amazing, right? That I get to meet this person that I saw on the TV. Um, but and it's also got to be great as an actor too, is like you said, having that feeling that people from all over the world may watch your films, and you could be touching so many different people.
Well, I think it's amazing that something that, like, maybe I filmed like 5 years ago at some guy's house in Long Island,
Yeah.
that I didn't really think was going to go anywhere, ending up on Tubi, and I'm discussing it with some like 22-year-old guy in England, and
Yeah.
then he's familiar with that, because it's like you do it and you don't really think about it. You just think, oh, I'm just filming this thing someday with some guy in Long Island in his backyard. He's a director or whatever,
Right.
and just you don't realize that the journey that piece of art is going to have,
Mhm.
and that it's going to go across the world, across the ocean, and people all over the world may end up, watching it or listening to it. I know, like, somebody from Italy contacted me recently and said they had seen me in Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania, which is evidently on Italian TV, which I didn't realize because I don't watch Italian TV because I'm not in Italy. But, it just, you don't always realize, you do so many things. Right now I'm at about 113 IMDb credits. So I don't always keep track of the life that each project that I'm involved in has.
Right.
And where these things end up, because I'm done with one project and I'm moving on to the next project. And I'm not always filled in with that information. Sometimes directors are nice enough to fill me in, sometimes not as much, because they have a lot of things on their plate and they probably work with hundreds, if not thousands of people. It's hard to fill in everybody, but it's interesting, how your work can really be seen by so many people nowadays and affect so many people. And then I also, speak about the Italian American thing. I recently got to work on my only Italian American project that I've ever been in, which is Gravesend, which is directed by Wim DeMeo. And that's more of like a Brooklyn Italian organized crime kind of project.
Right.
And, with 113 projects, I think that's the only project that I'm in, unfortunately, that is a very Italian-American project. And it's a really awesome project because it really has some of the most iconic Italian-American actors probably in the world all assembled into this amazing TV series. Like, I can't think of any TV series that's in existence that is assembled some of the best of Italian actors, and that is embracing and expressing this whole Brooklyn Italian experience and telling these stories that need to be told. And it's just also very amazing because it's like this 1980s time period and showing you the iconic classic styles of the 1980s and cars and all this other culture. So it has like a very old school kind of feel to it. Wim DeMeo is the star, the creator, the writer, and the director, and really an amazing force, an extremely talented individual that has brought all these people together to work on this amazing project. So I want to, Gravesend. Season 1 is on Amazon and Tubi. And then season 2 has been shot and will be forthcoming. So
yeah, and that
season 1.
And that is I have heard of Gravesend, and then I'm looking forward to watching season 2. So William DeMeo, I know, was on Sopranos, and I actually had the pleasure of having Mr. Peter Guardio on my show back in the summertime, who happened to be a part of Gravesend as well. And I want to say the comedian from North Jersey, and I know he was born in the Bronx, Brooklyn, actually, I want to say. Vic DiBitetto, I think, has a couple parts in that as well, doesn't he?
Oh, yes, he does. Yes, he does. I don't think I was on set with him, but so many different episodes. I was on set with William DeMeo and like Fran Drescher that day.
Wow.
Which was like fate or destiny, really, because during the pandemic, I had been rewatching all these episodes of The Nanny because I was watching a lot of really old TV shows.
Yeah.
So I was watching like Good Times and The Nanny and Sex and the City and like really like cheerful, like funny shows.
Right.
And my mom's a big fan of The Nanny and Fran Drescher. So I was like, I'll watch The Nanny and see what that's like. And then, like a while later, here I am on set with Fran Drescher. So I just thought it was kind of funny how that all kind of worked out,
Yeah.
You never know what life has in store with you. And one of the amazing things of being an actor is that a lot of people I grew up admiring are people I eventually got to work with. Another great one I want to give a shout out to is my 5th movie and my first SAG movie. Was Apocalypse Kiss, which I'm sure people could see online. It's a sci-fi thriller. And I got to work with Tom Atkins,
wow,
which is someone I had always really admired as a kid. He pops up in like Lethal Weapon and Halloween franchise and all these other great things. And he usually always plays a police officer. In Apocalypse Kiss, he also plays a police officer. I think that's like his typecast. But it's always, great. And then here I am. I've been a guest with him at ScareCon. And now most recently I saw him, I guess a few weeks ago at Chiller, the Halloween show in October. And we were at the bar eating rigatoni and vodka sauce with Lance from Salem's Lot. And it's just kind of funny because it's like when I was a kid, I never would have pictured myself being in a movie with Tom Atkins and then, making a guest appearance at Chiller with people like Tom Atkins. And who else were the guests there? We had Chuck Zito from Gravesend was there. And actually Chaz Palminteri from Gravesend was also there. So we had, multiple people that I worked with, and probably more people than that, maybe, if I walked around and talked to everybody. Because there were so many guests on the list. I think we had maybe 40 guests. So probably even more people than that I've worked with as well over the years. Because, you can have such a tremendously huge cast in a movie. You could have dozens and dozens of people involved. You're not always on set with everybody, though. But we're all a team working on, the film together. So Chiller Theater Horror Convention. I was a guest there this past Halloween. That is one of the top horror conventions probably in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like you said, a great point. I mean, you're these maybe actors, actresses you're watching years prior, and then as you're building your career, I mean, wow, like and one day you said you're on the set with Fran Dresser. And I remember, watching The Nanny as well. And I think it was really neat, that you mentioned that. But I mean, that's kind of, again, the beauty of acting, like you said, is you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know where life's going to take you. So you've had the honor to be in a lot of films. Yes, to be on Gravesend as well. The TV series, directed by William DeMeo. But so what made you want to get into, let's just say, the horror films? I see that you're and your IMBD, and also what a lot of your movies are about are horror induced films. So did you always like horror from a young age, or what got you into wanting to be an actor in horror movies?
Well, ever since I was a kid, my father always drew me into like the old Vincent Price movies, which are pretty old movies. And Vincent Price movies are also very wholesome horror movies. They're usually almost like a morality play. Good versus evil kind of thing. And they're actually mostly PG-13, I would say. Vincent Price used to keep things pretty pure. So I watched a lot of Vincent Price movies as a kid. The Pit and the Pendulum, Dr. Fives, The Raven, all these like amazing movies that he's in, Witchfinder General, and I think that had a big influence on me. And then you see somebody like Vincent Price or his contemporaries like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, who passed away a few years ago at a ripe old age. These actors were consistently busy, partly because they did horror movies. Horror movies have a huge audience. I could literally shoot a horror movie probably every month because they are always making them. And there's really just like this abundance of fans and conventions and people all over the world. Japan, Japanese people love horror movies. Europe, they love horror movies. All over the world, people, South America, I have lots of fans, love these horror movies. People are obsessed with them. When you meet someone, you say, like, how many times have you watched me? And I spill your guts. And they'll be like, I've seen the movie 15 times, 30 times, 40 times. People don't watch them just once. They watch them over and over again. And that's what a cult film really is a film that has a certain degree of almost an obsession, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show or something like that. Where people watch it repeatedly and love it more and more each time. They're not always the best films. Sometimes people enjoy them more if they're not the best films. If there's something that's like so bad they're good or so good they're bad, people kind of enjoy that. And that also brings me to the film that I actually wrote, directed, and starred in. It's available on Amazon, Vimeo, and Troma now, which is Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie. I wrote that movie, I direct that movie, and I star in that movie with an ensemble cast of mostly my friends, people that I know in the horror genre, and I decided to make my own stupid horror movie. Based on like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Attack the 50-Foot Woman, Kingdom of the Spiders, Night of the Living Dead. We have Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie. I started out as a short film, it won a bunch of awards, and now it's become a feature. It just won Best Horror Comedy at the Fantastic Film Festival in San Diego, actually Halloween weekend as well. So
that is great.
So you can watch that on Amazon. It's a really, really crazy movie, as the title would indicate. Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie. Don't go into that. The title is not misleading. It's pretty much the synopsis of the film. And some people have said it's the craziest movie they've ever seen. And that would probably be an accurate review. It is a really, really crazy movie.
Wow. And this is available on Amazon, you said?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, both streaming and also DVD. I think you can get it within 48 hours from one of the Amazon warehouses on DVD. Why do we have it on DVD and not just streaming? Because a lot of fans in the horror genre like to have the physical DVD so they can get it signed by the cast.
Right.
When they go to the convention, they may never even watch that DVD, but people love to have everybody sign it and have that turn into a piece of memorabilia, which is something that's really unique to people in the horror genre. They do the same thing with posters a lot of the time, where people love to have the tangible memorabilia. That's what I was doing at Chiller when I was there, signing DVDs, signing posters, signing pictures of myself. We had one fan, he brought 4 pictures he had found of me on my social media that were his favorite pictures that he printed out himself and brought, because he wanted those specific pictures printed out, signed for his collection. I also have T-shirts that I sell with me on them that I sell at conventions and things like that, because people in the horror genre, again, really like to have these tangible souvenirs, these keepsakes, these pieces of memorabilia, more than probably other genres.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. There's something, again, about the horror movies that are like really gravitating to an audience, right? And as you mentioned, I mean, I remember even as a little kid, I love watching the Michael Myers Halloween movies, even when they still come on today. As soon as that 31 days of Halloween and it starts in October and all the movies come on, I still like want to watch it all the time. It's just something about, the movie, just the memory, either a memory you have or when you're a little kid. Kind of what you're saying, your father showed you those films at a young age. And I remember watching Halloween. I'm like, man, I don't know how many times I watched 1, 2, 3, or 4 or Halloween H2O. I still want to keep watching it over and over. And that's just a little thing that I really enjoy, just watching those. But even horror movies in general, I have a little thing where I like to watch them. I like all movies, obviously, but something about the horror flicks really gets you.
Well, it taps into, I guess, our sense of fear. And then also, I guess, horror movies can also be a very, kind of erotic kind of genre. Maybe something that's like a kind of a coming of age thing. A lot of times we have this theme of like teenagers in the woods having sex and getting murdered. That happens like every movie. So there's just something in our psyche about that.
Right.
Yeah, people have like tried to come up with different reasons for it and things like that. There was one article I was reading, they said that people that were horror fans actually reacted better to the pandemic than most people, because, dude, we've been preparing for this like our whole lives, man. And we were like, we've been watching all these zombie movies, so we're like ready for anything. So when COVID hit, we were just relieved it wasn't zombies.
Yeah. Didn't they make wasn't there a movie that was made predicting or something like this, that the pandemic that actually happened? I think there was a movie that came out
by Stephen King.
Yeah.
The Stand, actually, to be honest, when we first kind of shut down, the movies that I was watching to kind of prepare myself psychologically, as weird as it might sound, was I watched the 1990s TV series with Tim, what was it? Who starred? I don't remember, but it a whole bunch of people, and The Stand, Stephen King. I think you can watch it on YouTube for free because the copyright has expired. It was a made-for-TV miniseries,
right?
And it's really great, The Stand, and it's like the super flu starts in the Midwest and gets out of like a laboratory, which is very similar to, I guess, some of the ideas of what could have happened with this in China. Who knows? We may never know. How it began, but that's how it begins in The Stand. And then it spread so quickly, even though the military and everybody tries to control it, but it's like uncontrollable. And then it wipes out, I think, 2/3 the population of the world. And The Stand is actually really amazing. And then it becomes biblical, because in the end, after 2/3 of the population is gone, the remaining third has to either pick God or Satan.
Right. Wow.
And it's going to be like the final showdown between good and evil, you know,
Yeah.
with the remaining people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's pretty amazing. So it's a combination of like this pandemic, but then it's also kind of like Stephen King's interpretation of Revelations.
Yes.
You know, so it's actually, I recommend it to anyone. I think they redid it, and I didn't see the remake of it, but the one from the 90s. And I've also read the book, believe it or not, like when I was like in 4th grade, I read the hardcover version of The Stand. And it is actually a really amazing book. And I know Stephen King even apologized on his Twitter for the similarities between The Stand and our COVID-19 pandemic. Let's just hope that nobody, you know, listening to this now is dreaming about the dark man, because that's like it. And The Stand, that's the devil. And if you're dreaming of the dark man, that means that you've kind of already pledged your soul to Satan. Yeah, that would be unfortunate. But that's like a really good thing. I watched that, and then I also watched Vincent Price and Last Man on Earth. And Vincent Price is like stuck at home all by himself, and everybody in the whole entire world has turned into a zombie except for him. He's the only person left in the whole world.
And he's got to just like run around and try to survive.
Yeah, and catch up on his reading, and and just try to kind of idle away his time being the last man on Earth. That's actually a really interesting movie as well. And then a lot of us, when they introduced the vaccines, were hoping it wasn't going to be like I Am Legend, because that's a really good movie. There's 2 versions, that the Will Smith one and the old version, because I think everybody gets vaccinated and then turns into a zombie in that movie.
Maybe if they saw that movie before the vaccine came out, they wouldn't have got the vaccine.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I know a lot of us we were saying, dude, I hope we don't turn into zombies after we get vaccinated. That would be a bummer, man. But I'm like, then we wouldn't have anything to worry about, though. We'd already be dead. But
right.
But that's another good movie that's kind of similar to this. And there's a lot of movies, I think, that 12 Monkeys, which isn't a horror movie, but the whole thing with the pandemic reminded me a lot of 12 Monkeys, which is a really great movie with Bruce Willis, and also Brad Pitt pops up in that. Right. That's kind of a little bit more on the sci-fi end, but I love sci-fi too. And I have been in a couple of sci-fi movies, like Apocalypse Kiss with Tom Atkins. I'll mention a little bit about Apocalypse Kiss. We're on the futuristic movies. Apocalypse Kiss takes place 50 years into the future, and the whole world was owned by a corporation. And poor people and rich people are segregated into different sectors and don't intermingle with each other anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, which, who knows? We could be heading that way. I don't know, right? This is like, Christian Grillo, the writer and director's vision.
Right.
And then we have, played by DC Douglas, he's this serial killer that's kind of taking advantage of the situation and kind of wreaking havoc in this futuristic setting. I play a pregnant hippie working at a cafe, that the main characters come to visit, the detective, the serial killer, and everybody else. Tom Atkins is the chief of police, trying to encourage his detectives to find the serial killer. Things are getting out of control. Lloyd Kaufman of Troma plays the president of the United States, a very dramatic role for him. Michael Berryman is the man that owns the corporation that runs the whole entire world.
Yeah.
Michael Berryman is a great horror actor, known for The Hills Have Eyes and many other movies. Yeah. Michael Berryman is another person that I've been honored to work with in so many movies and been a guest with so many times. I remember meeting him at Schiller when I was a little kid. And little did I know he would become such an influence in my life as an adult and as an actor. We worked together quite a few times. He's a really, really sweet person and a very kind, human being. So always great working with him. And that was, I think, our first movies together with Michael Berryman was Apocalypse Kiss. So, and I'm sure that's available somewhere online. I know it's been on Netflix and YouTube and Redbox and Amazon. Mm-hmm. Who knows where it is now, but I'm sure maybe it's on Hulu now or something like that. All these movies have like such a life where they, go from platform to platform.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Like they'll spend like a year or two on one platform and then move on to another platform, and things like that. And that's why it's kind of hard to keep track of. Right. My first horror movie I posted on my Instagram this week for fun was Jacko Slasher, which is a pretty silly movie. And I play a witchy character that like lures people to like their death and stuff. I look like Magenta from like the Rocky Horror Picture Show in it, and I look like we're about to have the floor show. If anyone's from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and wearing like all those crazy lingerie and makeup and whatever. And that was a really crazy movie that we shot in Long Island, and that was the beginning of my acting journey. You know, sometimes in life, Woody Allen always said. I know Chaz Palminteri quoted that on one of his recent shows, is that so much of life is just showing up for things. And somebody asked me if I wanted to be in a horror movie called Jacko Slasher out in a cornfield in October 2011. I said, yeah, sure. Not realizing that I was committing to being in lingerie in the middle of a cornfield when it was going to be 20, 30 degrees in the evening.
Wow.
And it would be freezing.
Yeah.
Covered in fake blood. Yeah, and all this other crazy
I can only
stuff.
imagine that.
Yeah, the glamorous world of acting. You're either sweating or you're freezing. Typically,
one of the two extremes, right?
Usually, it is like that. You're either like sweating or you're freezing because it seems like we never shoot anything during the proper season that it's supposed to be taking place in, and then we have to kind of fake it. So here I am playing. Not only am I a witchy character, pretending to lure men to their deaths,
right?
But I'm also pretending not to be freezing, wearing this sexy lingerie outfit. So people don't always realize when you're acting, there's like layers to your acting, because it's like you want it to be believable that you're not freezing, you're comfortable, you're this uninhibited kind of character. Similarly, in Apocalypse Kiss, I have a scene where I'm giving birth, and I'm also freezing. And I'm covered in fake blood and sweat, and I'm supposed to be focusing on giving birth and giving a realistic performance, but I'm really miserable because I'm freezing. And we can't run the heater because it makes too much noise and it's getting picked up by the boom. And that's acting. And if you can't hack that kind of stuff, acting is not the field for you. Maybe go into modeling. Modeling is definitely a little bit more comfortable and glamorous than acting. A lot of times acting is being very uncomfortable and maybe revealing yourself and maybe even showing yourself as being a little ugly in front of the camera,
Hey, Genoveva, so we do have just under a minute here. I just want to be aware, so I'm sending me to rush it. If you have one piece of advice that you could give my audience in just a few short seconds, they want to get into their acting or whatever they do, what is the best step to take? And I know we have to break this down, but we're going to have you on again. So,
that's a good question. What would be the best way to get into acting? I would say put yourself out there, get yourself into anything and everything you can, even if it's just a student film. Get your feet wet. Maybe take some acting classes. Maybe do some community theater. Network, meet people.
So basically just be getting out there and networking is the best thing, right?
You get out there networking and just kind of do it. Don't be concerned whether it's good or bad. Just do it and learn.
Well, listen, I want to thank you again so much. I'm sorry for the short time, but I do want to